is a member of the European Parliament, Richard Czarnecki, who is the founding chair of the EU-Uzbekistan Friendship Group in the European Parliament. Distinguished participants, I would like to welcome you all to Gastro-Diplomacy Talks, Culinary Traditions of Eurasia and Flavors of Uzbekistan. This is a virtual event to demonstrate the flavors of Uzbekistan along with the culinary traditions of Eurasia and the flavors of Uzbekistan. Our event will start with formal welcoming remarks of His Excellency Didier Hakimov and the member of the European Parliament, Richard Czarnecki. Before producing some delicacies, our speakers with a diverse backgrounds will talk about the cultural heritage of Uzbekistan along Silk Road, position of Uzbekistan between Central and South Asia. Hard news is what consumes our motivation today and energy during the daytime. In our contemporary moments, everyone seeks an alternative, not to be stuck in turbulence of politics, but to get engaged in at the same time. In other words, an option to add a bit of joy while keeping in line with real politics as well. This natural searching does not only belong to ordinary users in social media, academics, or media members, but also for diplomats who are exposed to be at the very center of hard politics. It is already and commonly known that in order to strengthen a bilateral tie between states, economy, trade, security, or energy play the determined factor. However, before that, there is much more determined factor whose absence or lack can directly block even to talk about these two categories. Of course, without a doubt, it is the communication. For example, the culture diplomacy took the helm of the way of what we can term as the new diplomacy. The more countries witnessed the cross-cultural interaction got better and improved, the more they gravitated to the new diplomacy. It is simple as it is. Food brings people together, whether at family dinners or diplomatic roundtables. Particularly when accompanied by a warm hospitality, food can turn to be a powerful and determined and tremendous instrument to get the control in a diplomatic meeting. Now, without further ado, I would like to first welcome Member of the European Parliament, Richard Czarnecki, who is the founding chair of the EU-Uzbekistan Friendship Group, to give his welcoming remarks. We will have his video message now live.
His Excellency Didier Hakimov, Ambassador of Uzbekistan to the European Union and the Benelux countries, distinguished participant, on behalf of the EU-Uzbekistan Friendship Group in the European Parliament, welcome you all our virtual event, Gastro-Diplomacy Talks, Culinary Traditions of Eurasia and Flavors of Uzbekistan. Before I start, I would like to thank His Excellency Didier Hakimov for hosting this important event. In fact, this is our first event of the EU-Uzbekistan Friendship Group in the European Parliament. Before I start, let me briefly introduce our newly established Friendship Group. As members of the European Parliament, we are interested in the progressive development of reliable and trusting relations with Uzbekistan in all areas of cooperation, including interparliamentary ties. As a result of a successful, open and constructive dialogue between two sides, the EU-Uzbekistan Friendship Group in the European Parliament was formed under my chairmanship to foster cooperation between Uzbekistan and the European Union through parliamentary diplomacy in April. In setting up EU-Uzbekistan Friendship Group, we have two major purposes: to support the important move of Uzbekistan towards the European Union, to forge a closer partnership between Uzbekistan and the European Union. This friendship group aims at bringing more dialogue among European and Uzbek decision makers the business community and civil society. Our newly established friendship group will bring Uzbekistan to a wider audience beyond niche expert and policy-making circles through a variety of thematic activities. We plan to organize events for the general public devoted to tourism promotion, cultural activities, small-scale conferences, etc., etc. We intend to add value to the already existing initiatives linking the EU and Uzbekistan by focusing on cultural, artistic, tourism and academic domains. We'll do our best to strengthen people-to-people dialogue and linkages in the progress. Ladies and gentlemen, with its ancient cities situated along the Silk Roads, such as Bukhara, Khiva, and Samarkand, Uzbekistan has been a center of education, science, and culture and served as a cradle of civilizations. Currently, with over 30 million inhabitants, Uzbekistan is the most populous country in the region. Recent political developments in the country have opened the way to closer international cooperation and improved the conditions for investment and economic growth. With its rich reserves of natural resources and relatively well-developed infrastructure, Uzbekistan has the potential to become one of the strongest economies in the post-Soviet area. Uzbekistan has demonstrated stable economic development in recent years, reported over 5% economic growth in 2019. Despite the pandemic, Uzbekistan could post positive growth in 2020 at a rate of 1.6%. Growth is expected to pick up in 2021. IMF projects to grow by about 5% growth in this year. We welcome and support large-scale economic reform policies under the leadership of President Shavkat Mirziyoyev, targeted at boosting growth through modernization of state-owned companies and creating a supportive climate for private and foreign direct investments. We acknowledge Uzbekistan's central role in Central Asia with its natural resources and relatively well-developed infrastructure. I am personally confident that Uzbekistan has the potential to become one of the real powerful economies, not only in Central Asia, but generally speaking in whole post-Soviet Union area. There is growing interest from European firms to invest in Uzbekistan. Very recent investment projects of Dutch registered Stone City Energy, our sponsor today, Siemens Energy and Électricité de France in Uzbekistan are a reflection of such a growing interest. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, with its ancient cities along the ancient Silk Road, rich historical and cultural heritage, ancient architecture, natural beauties, culinary diversity, Uzbekistan has potential to be a rising tourism destination of Eurasia. I am very glad to observe the positive steps by Uzbek government on this direction. I'm sure that in addition to being historical travel destination, Uzbekistan will invest to attract more tourists for medical, eco and gastronomic purposes as well. For this end, this event is to be a good start to promote culinary diversity and richness of Uzbekistan. Before I finish, I would like to thank our supporters, namely Reorient, Farm to Fork Strategy, and Mace Magazine and NS. And special thanks go to Stone City Energy, CSC. I need to tell you that Stone City Energy recently signed a $1 billion deal, Uzbekistan Ministry of Energy, for a gas turbine power plant. The project marks an essential step in helping the region sustainably meet domestic energy demand. I wish to such physical events in near future when we succeeded to defeat pandemic. Finally speaking, I hope you will enjoy rest of the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Czarnecki. Thanks for your kind welcoming remarks. Now, I would like to invite His Excellency Didier Hakimov, Ambassador of Uzbekistan to the European Union and the Benelux countries, for his welcoming remarks. Your Excellency, the virtual floor is yours.
Indeed. Thank you so much, dear participants. Distinguished member of the European Parliament, Mr. Richard Czarnecki, everybody on screen, our dear chef. It's really not only a big honor, but more importantly, a huge privilege to be part of this discussion club. And I am very moved by the speech of Mr. Czarnecki, and he basically made my personal speech much more easier. He covered most of the areas of our mutual cooperation and interest. But if you allow me, I would like also to outline a few latest developments in our bilateral relations between Uzbekistan and the European Union. These days, we are hosting a special EU representative for Central Asia, Mr. Peter Buryan, in Tashkent. He's traveling extensively through different parts of our country, and throughout his travel, he also delivered the message by the President of European Council, His Excellency Charles Michel, to our President, His Excellency Shavkat Mirziyoyev, where he clearly underscored what already being mentioned throughout the speech of Mr. Czarnecki, that Uzbekistan and European Union are at the highest moment in their bilateral relations, and the European Union deeply not only appreciate but also support the reform program of our country, of our president. And said that it covers all the areas of the mutual interest, like, it's economic cooperation, political and development areas, and financial technical support. There are so many areas to be covered. But what is importantly true, what was said by distinguished Mr. Czarnecki, that it's really important to strengthen our friendship. It's what we traditionally call people-to-people diplomacy. And there is nothing to invent, basically. The mutual visits, the culinary richness of different nations, that what is really bringing the true interest on the human level and human touch. It was difficult times throughout this pandemic, as you know, and Uzbekistan appreciate the support of the European Union throughout different forms in providing necessary assistance to fight the pandemic. And in its own turn, Uzbekistan was one of the first countries to deliver support to EU at the early stages of pandemic. For example, one of the first humanitarian dispatches from Uzbekistan were intended for Hungary, member of the European Union, 1 year ago. So there are many other areas where we really looking forward to expand our bilateral relations, to work out, and we appreciate what was done by the group of the European parliamentarians. And as I said before, we appreciate the role of the founding member of this friendship group, Mr. Czarnecki, for his leadership and initiative to establish such a group. It's really a big step forward when we are starting working on this, I would not say grassroots level, but on this personal level to strengthen our interest between the two sides. Today we are going to move, and that's what my kind of official remarks. And but I would like to outline that we really appreciate the interest in the European Union that we are observing this year's to Uzbekistan is the tourism. And as of April 1st, 2018, Uzbekistan abolished all the visa requirements for the EU citizens to travel to Uzbekistan. So we are already back from pandemic, and Uzbekistan is open for any potential travel. We are eagerly awaiting when the European Union will adopt its own policy regulations for the citizens of the Union to travel abroad. And Uzbekistan is very much friendly and hospitable country. As it was said, traditionally our country was the hotbed of civilization for many decades, for many centuries, if not to say for at least 3 to 4 millennia. And today we are going to discuss one of the wonderful dishes that were moved through our Silk Route from Central Asia, like a couple of thousand years ago, with moving different tribes and people, the traders, towards the Mediterranean, toward what is contemporary Turkey, Middle East, also to some northern part of our Eurasian continent, and became one of the landmark dishes of Uzbekistan. We know plov, but there is also some other dishes that are being kind of part of our very rich culture. It's one to. We really appreciate that this lead was taken by wonderful Italian chef, and appreciate the participation of all the members of our discussion group today. I'm also would like to thank all the participants, all the sponsors of this event. I know that there was great interest from Uzbekistan Broadcasting Company, a private broadcasting company, Uzreport, and we are looking forward to organize many more such events on tourism, on culture. And I think if we'll start with such a wonderful events, someday we will also bring all this potential to be organized somewhere on spot in Uzbekistan. And by saying that, I would like to welcome all the interested guests, participants of this event to visit Uzbekistan. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Thanks for your kind words and hospitality. We are very much looking forward to also have another culinary show at the embassy that we are always warmly welcomed. And once again, thank you. Dear participants, now we have 3 speakers from different countries and with diverse backgrounds. I would like to invite our first speaker is Derya Adosi, who is the Policy and Strategic Communication and Principal Advisor at United Europe. And she is a co-founder of the Women's Initiative of Reorient. So dear Derya, we are very happy to have you today with us and happy to hear from your perspective of our today's topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Ambassador Khakimov and General Secretary Ipek Tekdemir. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak, and I'm here to cover the communication perspective and of food and international relations. I'm a policy and strategic communications advisor, and culinary diplomacy is definitely a very important instrument of strategic communication. Culinary diplomacy promotes understanding among people of different cultures. And when you gather around a table to share a meal, walls come down and minds become open, because food is the most common denominator for each and every one of us. Food is a way for people of foreign cultures to connect. And there's no better medium for diplomacy than the nourishing and the nurturing joy that we all associate with food. So chefs are really representatives of cultures and cuisine, and food is the great common denominator to connect and learn about people they are visiting, while also sharing their culture. So through cooking, women in particular feel very resourceful and build their networks, bring their family together, and even communities. in an effort to bridge the cultural divide, one bite at a time. So what is culinary diplomacy actually? Culinary diplomacy had been defined as the use of food and cuisine as an instrument to create cross-cultural understanding in the hopes of improving interactions and cooperation. Simply put, it is the idea that food helps us to understand each other better and to allow us to form bonds and break down barriers. There are different ways to engage in culinary diplomacy. You have a government to government, for example, when the government uses cuisine for diplomatic reasons, such as state dinners, or to soften negotiations over a more intimate shared meal. And then you have government to foreign public engagement, when a government uses food as soft power diplomacy to encourage cultural exchange with citizens of another country. And you have the citizen to citizen, when non-state actors or civil society engage in cultural exchanges intended to improve cross-cultural relations. So learning about countries through the power of food is one of the most significant instruments of diplomacy. In a sustainable tourism project, I have worked with local women from Central Asia who cooked alongside German citizens, and it was a great way to learn culinary traditions and who they are as a people, while also sharing a taste of culture and cuisine. And upon their return back to Germany, they engaged their friends at community events and shared the food they have learned to cook there and the stories of the people they met. So I can conclude that food and cuisine is definitely a common language. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Daria, and I'm sure that we will also continue to organize such events, and we will happily have you with us again, and thank you for your time. Now we have our second speaker, Mr. Richard Milsom, who is the Brussels Bureau of Chief of Mace magazine, and who is specialized in many years in business and politics. We are very happy to have him with us today. Thank you once more for your time, and dear Richard, we are happy to hear from your perspective of our today's topic.
Well, Ipek, thank you so much to you for organising this important debate. And I'm extremely pleased to be here to discuss this important subject. I mean, not only is this a compelling and interesting topic, but it's an important part of international relations and diplomacy. I think the presence of His Excellency, the Ambassador of Uzbekistan today, is particularly relevant. Historically, his country was perhaps the first centre of culinary diplomacy. Being at the centre of the Silk Road and the great crossroads between the East and the West civilizations. I mean, even before the travels of Marco Polo, Central Asia was the road by which the traditions of the East and West went back and forth. I'm taking a slightly different angle on this because really, gastro-diplomacy and cultural diplomacy has so much to do with facilitating trade. So for me, it's very much about trade and how markets and commerce developed, not just as a showcase for each other's produce and cultures, but the importance of international trade as the supreme instrument of poverty alleviation, of social justice, and conflict resolution. The easiest thing is to take for granted what is familiar to us, and sometimes it's a real effort to stand back and see the wonder of the world in which we live. The astonishing rate of wealth, health, and happiness that is increasing during the course of our lifetimes. For 10,000 years, the lot of most human beings was oppression and caste, serfdom and slavery. Most human beings scratched a meagre life of subsistence working in the fields. But the last few centuries, something truly miraculous has happened. We underwent a great enrichment, which is still the central factor of your life and my life. And what happened was that we stopped trying to be self-sufficient. Whether at personal, tribal, national level, we learned to depend on new relations with strangers. From that simple change in our behavior came Starbucks, starships, symphonies, smallpox vaccines, and more recently the lead pencil and even a COVID vaccine. If you think of the extraordinary changes, I mean, in my lifetime, I was born in 1973. In Europe, it took the average worker more than a month to be able to buy a TV in 1973. Today, it's less than 2 days. In 1973, fewer than half of girls completed primary education. Now it's more than 90%. In 73, a stationary car with its engine running emitted more pollution than a car today moving at full speed. What was the magic wand that brought about this strong transformation? It was the trading exchanges that allowed us to specialize and depend on each other's extended networks. And where did it all start? The Silk Road in Uzbekistan. To this day, people can also, they can still be slightly suspicious of each other. And I think, one of the great things of gastro-diplomacy is it's a great icebreaker, a shared meal, the breaking of bread shows that we have more in common with each other than differences. It's no surprise that in our cultures, in most important traditions, in our religious ceremonies, our professional or family and friends events, it's all centered around the dinner table. In my country, the UK, a country not traditionally associated with the finest gastronomic culture, obviously enormous wealth was created from the sort of 17th century onwards through building international networks and trade. As you look back at times, certain spices were more valuable than gold. And to this day, historic and cultural links have such an impact that, for example, our national dish now comes from India. Staples of Italian cuisine can be found in every British home, and you can buy and enjoy produce from all over the world. You can certainly find the delicious Uzbek lamb and rice national dish of plov as well. So if you look in Brussels too, restaurants, food halls, markets, they're a great tool for diplomacy. Here in Brussels, there are a plethora of representations from countries, regions, communes. Many are professional working offices. But one of the best around is around the corner from my office, which is sponsored by the Piedmont region in Italy. It's a restaurant showcasing their food and their wine, but the staff will happily engage with you and inform you of their region, what's going on, and look for avenues of cooperation and friendship. I think all of us have an interest in having a prosperous world based on the free movement of goods and ideas. And there's no doubt that within our different food cultures, they add enormously to our diversity and richness, as well as helping us to be more tolerant and understanding of each other. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Richard. And it's indeed, I would like to also give one example that you have mentioned how important the gastro-diplomacy between the states. And as we all remember that the Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu and his German counterpart Sigmar Gabriel gave significant message for bilateral relations in a very warm meeting in back then in 2018, where both tasted a delicious Turkish tea, and Gabriel's using a very traditional teapot used in almost in every Turkish homes, and which most probably what melted the existing ice between these two diplomats. At that period, the two countries' relations were at the lowest level. Indeed, and thank you so much for your contribution. And I would like to move in our program to our third speaker, Mr. Luca Contrino, who is the charge de mission of the Assembly of European Regions, producing fruits, vegetables, and ornamental plants. And this is an association created in 2000 on the initiative of a group of Spanish, French, and Italian regions. I'm sure Mr. Luca will contribute us from his perspective. Dear Luca, the virtual floor is yours.
Dear IPEC, Ambassador Hakimov, Senor Terracciano, and distinguished guests, thank you. So, as Uzbekistan's role on the Silk Road with the distinguished cities of Samarkand, Bukhara, and Khiva shows, our interconnection through goods, services, and specifically food is far older than perhaps we ourselves may be aware, and unfortunately certain elements in society today allow us to believe. Perhaps the greatest message that we can take from this today, and it applies to everything we do and everything we are, is that nothing, absolutely nothing, happens in isolation. Everything, in a sense, is interconnected. What happens in one place will invariably have consequences, positive or negative, in others. Awareness of these actions and these consequences is fundamental. And through food, we can also see that today. Understandably, perhaps the best interconnection we have now in a policy sense, is the farm to fork strategy being developed by the European Union. And this goes back to this fundamental principle. Food is not an element that is simply an addition to our day or a distraction from the work and the duties of our everyday. It is, in the most fundamental sense, who we are, how we identify ourselves, how we identify with others, and the means by which we can identify with others. Just to give examples of how fundamental food is to identity, just try to imagine Argentinian or Brazilian identity without the heavy meat-based diet from the ranchero, the pampero, or the gaucho, or the vegetarian heavy diet in India as mandated or rather encouraged by Hinduism. And consequently, this too plays into how we can connect. So how the farm to fork strategy plays into this, which I find rather interesting parallels, is finally a fundamental recognition that our food is so heavily interconnected with everything else that we do and who we are, that to treat it in a policy sense, in an economic sense, in a social sense, as something completely detached from other economic and social and political activity is fundamentally counterproductive and can never succeed. And so finally, the four basic principles are food loss, waste, and prevention, sustainable food production, sustainable food consumption, sustainable food processing and distribution. So what do we see here? We see finally an important recognition of the uselessness of pushing for a form of splendid isolation and self-sufficiency. Need I remind you that all examples of autarky in the modern times have failed spectacularly, whether it's Franco's Spain or Mao's China. So finally, a recognition that yes, we are interconnected, and yes, we need to work on this together is a fundamental turn. And once again, the connection here is that, as Uzbekistan more clearly illustrates, and Uzbekistan itself is a major producer in agricultural produce, most people associated with its extensive cotton production, but in reality it is the second biggest producer of tomatoes, if I remember correctly, on earth, and is a top 10 producer of several other crops, including wheat, potatoes, and carrots. And what this illustrates again is that rather than looking to cut ties, burn bridges, and look inwards, as certain people tell us is the only solution to our current malaise, we need to recognize and re-emphasize the value of these interconnections that we have. And the only way we can succeed in achieving goals elsewhere in economic growth, environmental sustainability, and social justice is to make sure that these interconnections are at the center of these policies, that every step of these interconnections is adequately addressed, and that all the elements, economic, social, and political, within each step are addressed. So the parallel that I saw here today with this talk and policy is finally something highly encouraging. And for Uzbekistan itself, I think with its current agricultural output, it will be fundamental to this transition as well. It will be an element to consider. I know that the European Union is slowly reaching out to Central Asia on issues of trade, on issues of environmental sustainability, and this can only intensify. Uzbekistan itself is coming into its own rather historically. Central Asia has been represented de facto by Kazakhstan through active diplomacy and hydrocarbon and natural resource wealth. So bringing greater awareness of the region is something that is finally starting to take form. And I'd like to end by simply saying that once again, this is the illustration, finally, that where we go beyond the technical and simply political and the economical, we reach finally into the interpersonal. After all, these agreements require people to come together and talk and agree and find common ground. And where this will happen is almost certainly through our food and the acknowledgement that our shared culinary heritage, the transfer between East and West and vice versa, of ingredients, of understanding, of knowledge, of technology, goes back far further than we are often aware. And rather, an interruption in this would not be a return to golden days when everything was better. It would be an insane turn into new territory that would make any progress on our most pressing common goals fundamentally impossible to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Luca, and thank you very much again for your time, and we really appreciate your contribution, and looking forward to also have you as a cook at the kitchen, as you're Italian, as we know that all the citizens in Italy basically know how to cook, and we would happily organize another event in the future together where we can all be at the kitchen at the same time. Now I see... Exactly, thank you. And now I see distinguished participants. Our chef is moving and he's already ready, and we should not wait that long. And I think now it's high time to have our special cooking show by Giovanni Terracciano, who is from Napoli, not from Italy. He is from Napoli. And Mr. Terracciano is an experienced chef who worked in particular in Central Asia. He is a member of the Chaîne de Rôtisserie and the Federation of Italian Chefs. And he will reveal today us the secret to making special dishes of Uzbekistan, which we, as Turkish origin, know mantı, with a different touch by the Italian touch, I guess, Giovanni, right? If I'm wrong, please correct me.
Yes.
Here, Giovanni, we are ready, and because we were looking forward to connect you, and our chef is in Istanbul and ready to show us his performance.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, IPEC. Thank you very much to let me join this debate. Today we will show how they do the Uzbekistan mantı or doublings. They call doublings. It's let's say it's a kind of a way of between mantı, Turkish mantı, and Italian ravioli. Something like very similar. The dough basics is with flour, eggs, whole eggs, then a little water and salt. So once we mix the dough, we will get something like this. This is like normal dough with like this, the ingredients. But this other one is like with a little tomato paste, and this with a little spinach puree. So we can get 3 different colors. And I just made now this, it's flat with this small pasta machine. Now we're going to the other side, we make the filling. The filling is with minced meat, a little chopped onions, and chopped potato. Potato are a little boiled because this is going to stay on the steam for about 40 minutes. So the potato can continue to cook in the steam. Salt and cumin, we mix all together, and then we will stuff the ravioli, the mantı. We're going to the other side. This is all raw ingredients, so when going to the steam, everything will cook together, so we keep much more the flavor all together. Okay, we make a small piece, small balls of filling, then we put in the middle. We cut the dough in square parts, and then we close in four, like the doublings. This is the way how to close. I will show another one.
Giovanni, you are on the test. I mean, in front of Your Excellency, that you have to make sure that it really looks like Uzbek mantı.
Yes, yes, it is. It
Or
is.
change it into ravioli style.
No, that's more or less the way how they do. It's very similar to doublings. On the things is they don't boil in the water. So when you boil something in the water, lose a little bit the flavor. But they do in the steamer. So we organize some steamer like this. So all keeps inside the flavor and the color.
It's actually, if you allow me, guys, it's really very close to the origins, and I'm having my good friend in the room, ambassador of Uzbekistan, and as you know, it's our common legacy and cultural dish, and it's very close. We are observing to the original recipe.
We have a jury for Giovanni today.
These are the, let's say, once they are ready, we can make also many other different colors with pumpkin, with squid ink to make it black. And then after, once they are ready, we're going to steam for about 40 minutes. So the dough and the fillings, we get nice cooked. And then after, we place in a dish. And then we serve with a little yogurt, a little tomato sauce.
And Giovanni, what sort of spices do you use for the meat?
Spices cumin.
Cumin, yes.
Cumin,
okay.
Yes.
It's only cumin, or is it like a mix of other, like cinnamon or something else?
Just cumin on the traditional recipes, just cumin. But after, at the end, they eat, sometimes they use with spicy butter. Inside the butter they put dry oregano and a little chili peppers. But today, after the yogurt and tomato, we will put also a little spicy oil.
Yes, I had the impression that Uzbek cuisine was in fact used a lot of spice. So you're saying that effectively
not on this. They have some soups. They have some soups very spicy, like very similar. Yes, some chorba, very similar to Turkish soups, like dune chorba. It's like based with vegetable and yogurt. Then they have very famous dishes like the lamb. In that case, they put a lot of spicy. This, let's say, the doublings, once are ready cooked, we put a little yogurt.
And what sort of yogurt do you have to use?
This is like like Greek or Turkish yogurt. This is just they make a little soft with. If it's too hot, they whisk a little bit to make it more soft.
Is it similar to sour cream also, which is widely used?
No,
I think
the sour cream is more heavy. The yogurt is lighter. It's a little more light as taste. Okay, now.
But also in Turkish mantı, we use mostly garlic in the yogurt sauce.
Yes, to give spicy up the flavors.
And the tomato sauce, how did you do the tomato sauce?
Tomato sauce is basic with garlic, olive oil, garlic, and then tomato, and then at the end a little basil. So like a traditional, not with onions. We can put also with onions.
You don't use the famous paprika paste, the pepper paste. I think this is very famous in Turkey. It's people bringing it actually to Germany from Turkey because
yes,
you can't really find it.
but not in the tomato sauce. Yes, of course we use a lot of paprika paste, pepper paste. Yes, they used to do very traditional. Also, many traditional families they do for the winter time tomato conserve and pepper conserve. Mostly all the family they do. This is spicy oil. Please.
Okay, they dry it, I think, on the rooftops, correct?
Yes, that's the for the dolma. It's like they do some stuffed peppers, zucchini, eggplants. They remove the filling inside and then they let dry on the sun. But for the pepper paste, they take the most red peppers, they boil and then they made through the machine that they get just the paste, like the same machine they do the tomato conserve, they do the peppers. After they get the, let's say, the paste, they make dry in the oven. So they make more dry and then they put in the glass bottles and then again boil for let's say 40 minutes to sterilize, and then they keep all the winter. This is the dishes. Is let's say a little Italian touch, but more or less is this the Uzbekistan dumplings.
Excellent, chef. Excellent, and thank you so much. We should applaud our chef. Bravo, bravo.
Thank you very much.
Dear Richard, how do you use the sauce? Do you have a similar tomato sauce in the UK and then in your culture?
Do you know, I wouldn't dare propose a tomato sauce, especially a chef from Naples.
Yes.
You know, I mean, well, the one thing I was interested to know actually is the dough for the pasta, because whilst you made it look so simple, you know, making your own dough is incredibly complicated. What's the secret?
No.
What's the trick?
Okay, I will show again the dough. It's just flour, 1 eggs, and a little water. The dough is like very simple. They can do also just with, let's say in Italy we do the dough just with eggs. We don't put water. But because of this is going to steam, so a soft dough will cook better. There are also chefs, they do just with yellow eggs. But in that case, it's more indicated for a type of pasta like fettuccine or tagliolini or tonarelli. So in that case, you will have a more hard dough, so you can have keeps more al dente like tagliolini or fettuccine. But
so do you? What type of flour do you use? And secondly, do you use the machine to make it?
Yes, to make a flat we use the machine, but you can also use the rolling pin, of course. But takes a little longer.
And Giovanni, I think there's also a special folding technique, because I know especially grandmothers, they get very upset at their daughters when they don't fold it in the right way.
Yes, yes. So of course, before sometimes ago was like every Thursday you could walk in the town and you see outside this round table where they used to make this type of pappardelle. They leave from the morning outside to dry out with a little sun. This is the dough. It's like very simple, very easy to do. But of course you have to work out a little bit. More hard it is, and more keeps al dente if you wish to make like fettuccine or anything else. But for the dumplings, have like not very hard. So when because of cooking steam, keeps much nicer.
Okay, this is because different technique of the cooking process is different.
Yes, exactly. If we make hard dough dumplings, when the steams becomes it's more hard, still hard. But if you boil in the water, it gets a little softer.
Indeed, actually, Giovanni, now we are already very hungry, and now it's lunchtime, and we are watching you with should we go to the kitchen and eat? But unfortunately, during this challenging time, it's a bit difficult.
Yes.
We can all meet at the embassy of Uzbekistan. I have my oklava, which is called special for the dough, so we can start maybe preparing the dough, and then by the time you come to Brussels, so we will train ourselves to how to make a good Uzbek mantı. It will be good training for all of us. Thank you, Giovanni.
Thank you to you. Thank you to all. Please.
And
thank you.
And dear participants, before we finish, if you like to add anything for the conclusion, if I may ask.
First two questions to Giovanni. Question 1, can we get the recipe? And question 2, do you take orders?
Orders, you have to come to Istanbul. I can do, of course. The recipe of the dough is like 200 grams of flour, 1 eggs wool, and 70 grams of water, a little salt. For the filling, the meat is like 400 gram ground beef, salt, pepper, cumin, 1 onion chopped and 1 potato chopped. It's very easy, very simple. And steam about 40 minutes. And then normal sauce, normal yogurt.
Excellent.
And a little spicy oil. Spicy oil, you make the chili in the oil and keeps like 35-40 degrees for about half an hour. So the oil gets all the taste from the chili.
Thank you, dear Giovanni.
Thank you, everyone.
Anything?
I have one question. But Richard, go first.
Richard, please go first, and then Daria.
I just wanted to say that, in these COVID times of endless webinars, this has been an absolute revelation. It's been absolutely fascinating, and it's a great credit to you, Ipek, for organising it, for His Excellency the Ambassador, the other speakers, but particularly our famous chef as well. It's been really.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, and please let's do more of these.
If I may. Guys, it really was, it's something else. It's a different level, I would say, of diplomacy. And I would like also, without any due, just to thank Ipek for this wonderful initiative. And as it was said in my opening remarks, we're really looking and committed as embassy, as country, to promote more and more of our, I would say, common cultural values, and it's just another example how broad the cultural values. It's not only Eurasia. If we'll have some Brazilian guys here in the room, I'm more than sure that it will be all the same about mante, about the dumplings, and let us continue this practice. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Daria, please, and you conclude from your side. And
okay, I would like to thank you, Ipek, of course, as well, and His Excellency the Ambassador for today. And my question is, I used to live in Dubai, and I had my favorite restaurant was actually Uzbek, so I knew where to go. I don't know where to go in Berlin, and I don't know where to go when I go to Brussels or Istanbul. So if you could maybe name 2 authentic restaurants where one can go to have real authentic Uzbek food in Brussels and Istanbul.
I'm not sure about the authentic 2 restaurants in Brussels, but definitely I will provide you with at least one address. It's Franklin Roosevelt 99. It's our embassy, and they are most welcome, guys. Please
when you come to Istanbul, come to Sheraton or Le Méridien. I will do this for you, please.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you. Before we finish, I would like to thank all for your valuable participation and hope to meet our physical events in Brussels or in lovely ancient cities of Uzbekistan. Thank you very much, and looking forward to host for our next episode in next month. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Ciao, everybody.
Bye-bye.